Too many of us walk through this world carrying invisible chains. We smile, we nod, we go along with the rhythm of life, but deep within we know we have surrendered pieces of ourselves, sometimes to fear, sometimes to doubt, sometimes to the opinions of others. Powerlessness does not always come with loud shackles. Often it whispers in soft agreements, in quiet sacrifices, in the moments when we tell ourselves, this is just how it has to be. But let me tell you something, it does not have to be that way. You do not have to remain silent in the face of your own diminishing. You do not have to live a story that was never written for you in the first place. The reason you must stay with me until the very end of this message is simple, because your life depends on it. Not the life you are enduring, but the life you deserve. And if you are tired of being powerless, if you are ready to gather every broken piece and claim them as whole again, then you must lean in. Because today, together, we will learn how to stop feeling powerless and start taking your life back. There is a truth that no one can take from you, no matter how the world tries to dress you in lies. That truth is your worth. Before you ever took your first breath, before anyone called you by a name, before you were measured, judged, or compared, you carried worth within you. It is not something earned, not something given, not something fragile enough to be stolen. Yet too many of us walk through life forgetting this birthright, shrinking ourselves to fit into boxes that were never designed to hold us. To own the truth of your worth is not a gentle act. It is a bold declaration, because the world will not always clap for you, will not always affirm you, will not always remind you of your brilliance. In fact, there will be days when the world will throw every shadow it has, hoping you will stumble in the dark and forget the light that was always inside you. Owning your worth means standing in that darkness and daring to say, I am still enough, I am still whole, I am still worthy. You see, powerlessness is born when you forget this truth. The moment you allow someone else's opinion to weigh heavier than your own knowing, you have already placed your crown into their hands. You have already said, tell me who I am, because I do not trust myself to know. And that is how we get lost, listening to voices that were never meant to define us. But your worth is not negotiable. It does not rise and fall like the stock market, does not depend on applause, does not dissolve when someone leaves you. Your worth simply is. Think of how many times you have bent yourself into uncomfortable shapes just to be accepted. How many times you silenced your voice because you believed it was too small. How many times you agreed to less because you feared that asking for more would make you unlovable. These are the places where worth was forgotten, and forgetting is dangerous, because when you forget, you allow the world to write your script, and the world's script will never be big enough for the fullness of who you are. Owning your worth begins in quiet places. It begins when you look in the mirror and instead of counting every flaw, you remember every storm you survived. It begins when you stop apologizing for the space you take up and start recognizing that your very presence carries weight, carries power, carries light. Owning your worth is an act of remembering again and again that you are not defined by what broke you, by what left you, by what misunderstood you. You are defined by the undeniable truth that you are here, breathing, still rising. There will be voices that tell you otherwise. Voices from your past that whisper, you are not enough. Voices from society that scream, be smaller, be quieter, be prettier, be richer. Voices from doubt that mock, who are you to believe you matter? And every time you hear those voices, you must answer them with the truth, because silence in the face of lies is how powerlessness grows. To answer with truth is to reclaim ground. To answer with truth is to declare that you are not up for debate. It is not arrogance to know your worth. It is not pride to walk tall. It is alignment with the truth of who you are. And when you live in alignment, Doors open that you thought were sealed shut. Opportunities find you because you are no longer hiding. Love finds you because you no longer settle for scraps. Peace finds you because you no longer fight battles you were never meant to fight. This is what it means to live from worth, not waiting for validation, not begging for attention, but resting in the solid ground of your own enoughness. Think of the generations before you. Think of the ones who fought simply to stand, to speak, to exist without apology. Their struggles carved the path for you to be here today. Do you think their sacrifices were made so that you could spend your life doubting yourself? No, their sacrifices were made so that you could stand boldly in the fullness of who you are, unshaken by small opinions and unbroken by rejection. To own your worth is to honor them. To own your worth is to continue their song. And let me tell you this, when you finally begin to own it, people will notice. Some will celebrate you because they see in you the reflection of what they are trying to claim in themselves. Others will resist you because your light makes their shadows uncomfortable. Do not dim yourself to soothe them. Do not shrink to make others feel tall. Your worth is not a weapon, but it is a fire, and some will be warmed by it while others fear being burned. Still, you must shine. When you truly embrace your worth, the way you carry yourself changes. Your back straightens. Your words grow stronger. Your spirit becomes unshakable. You no longer beg for places at tables that were never built for you. Instead, you build your own table, carve your own path, tell your own story, and the beauty of it is, once you begin to walk in your worth, you give others permission to do the same. You become the spark that ignites courage in those who have been hiding in silence. So I ask you, how much longer will you hand away your power? How much longer will you wait for someone else to declare you worthy when the truth has been in you all along? The time for shrinking is over. The time for doubt is done. Your worth has been waiting for you to remember it, to claim it, to wear it like a garment that cannot be stripped away. Own the truth of your worth and watch how the world begins to shift. Watch how doors open, how chains fall, how freedom rushes in. Because when you know who you are, nothing and no one can make you forget again. Fear is the oldest shadow that has ever walked beside humanity. It has been whispering since the beginning of time, bending spines, silencing voices, and convincing hearts that they are not enough. Fear does not always arrive with thunder and lightning. Sometimes it comes quietly, slipping into your thoughts, making you doubt your own strength, making you believe that you are safer in chains than you are in freedom. But if you are ever going to take your life back, you must come face to face with fear and refuse to surrender to it. Fear has a way of disguising itself as wisdom. It tells you, don't try, you might fail. It tells you, don't speak, no one will listen. It tells you, don't step forward, the world is not ready for you. It pretends to protect you, but in truth, it imprisons you. Every time you surrender to fear, you place a piece of your future on an altar and let it be sacrificed. And after enough sacrifices, you begin to believe that your life is meant to be small. But your life was never meant to be small. You were not born to hide. Think of how many dreams have been buried in graveyards of fear. How many books were never written, how many songs never sung, how many businesses never started, how many loves never embraced, all because someone believed the voice of fear louder than the call of purpose. Fear does not destroy with fire and force. It destroys by convincing you to destroy yourself. It waits for your agreement, and once you agree, it wins. But here's the truth. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward even when fear is screaming in your ears. Courage is standing on shaky legs, heart pounding, hands trembling, but still saying, I will not let this fear be my master. If you are waiting for the day when fear disappears before you take your first step, that day will never come. Fear may never vanish, but you have the power to silence its authority. Fear thrives in silence. The more you hide it, the stronger it grows. When you name it, when you speak it out loud, when you drag it out of the shadows and into the light, its power begins to wither. You take away fear's throne the moment you refuse to kneel before it. And every act of defiance against fear, no matter how small, strengthens your spirit. You don't have to start with great leaps, start with small steps. Speak when fear tells you to be silent. Try when fear tells you to sit still. Stand when fear demands you kneel. Every small act of resistance weakens its grip on your life. Understand this. Fear is not your enemy because it exists. Fear is your enemy because of how much authority you give it. When you live in fear, you let it write your story. You let it decide your limits, choose your relationships, shape your destiny. But when you refuse to surrender, when you stand up and declare that you will not let fear dictate your life, you begin to reclaim your pen. You take back the authorship of your story. There is no power stronger than a human spirit that has refused to bow to fear. History is filled with ordinary people who dared to stand when fear tried to silence them. They faced ridicule, opposition, even danger. But they kept moving forward because they understood that fear may shout, but it cannot command unless you obey. And when they refused to surrender, they carved new paths for others to follow. Your own refusal to surrender will do the same. It will not only free you, it will free those who see your courage and find their own. Do not confuse fear with intuition. Intuition warns you when something threatens your soul. Fear lies to you about your potential. Intuition guides you towards safety and growth. Fear keeps you in stagnation and silence. You must learn to tell the difference. One wants to protect you, the other wants to imprison you. Listen closely. Your spirit knows the difference, but you must quiet the noise of fear long enough to hear it. Fear often builds its strongest fortress in your past. It reminds you of every failure, every rejection, every disappointment, hoping you will chain your future to those memories. But the past is not a prophecy. The fact that you fell once does not mean you cannot rise now. The fact that someone doubted you then does not mean you must doubt yourself forever. Fear wants you to forget that every day you rise is proof that you are stronger than every storm you've faced. Refusing to surrender to fear is refusing to let the past dictate the promise of your future. And yes, there will be people who try to amplify your fear. They will speak their own doubts into your life because they surrendered long ago and cannot imagine anyone else breaking free. They will tell you to stay small, to stay safe, to stay silent, because your courage is a mirror that reflects their own surrender. Do not let their fear become yours. Do not let their limits become your boundaries. You are not required to carry another person's chains. The truth is, fear will always knock on your door. It will always whisper when you are on the edge of something new, when you are about to expand, when you are about to rise higher. But the knock of fear is often the sign that you are walking toward your destiny. Fear does not waste its breath on the powerless. It only fights the ones who are about to step into their strength. So when fear rises, do not take it as a signal to stop. Take it as confirmation that you are moving in the right direction. You cannot control the presence of fear, but you can control your response to it. You can decide to no longer be ruled by its whispers. You can decide that the voice of courage will speak louder. You can decide that your future is more important than your comfort, that your growth is more valuable than your safety, that your destiny is worth more than your doubt. Every time you choose courage over fear, you take back another piece of your life. Fear wants to own you, but it cannot unless you give it permission. Today, right here, right now, you can take that permission back. You can stand even trembling and declare that fear will not rule you anymore. You can walk forward, even shaking, and refuse to bow. You can breathe deeply and remind yourself that though fear may walk beside you, it will not walk ahead of you. Refuse to surrender to fear, and you will discover that beneath every trembling step is a strength you never knew you carried. Refuse to surrender, and you will see that fear is not the end of your story, but the beginning of your rising. Refuse to surrender and watch your life unfold into a freedom that was waiting for you all along. Life is a series of choices, some small enough to go unnoticed, others so heavy they change the course of everything. Yet so many people move through the world believing they have no choice at all. They wake up, go through the motions, nod at what is handed to them, and convince themselves that life is something that simply happens to them. That is the lie that keeps people powerless. That is the lie that keeps people bound. The truth is, choice has always been yours. You may not always choose the storms that come, but you always choose how you will stand in the rain. You may not always choose the pain you encounter, but you choose whether it will break you or build you. The power of choice is the power of freedom. And until you reclaim it, you will continue to live a story written by hands that are not your own. Choice is not a gift granted by others. It is a birthright. From the moment you drew your first breath, you were given authority over your life. But somewhere along the way, fear, doubt, disappointment, and the heavy voices of others convinced you to set that authority down. You surrendered it to the expectations of family, to the limitations of society, to the judgment of strangers. And when you surrendered, you told yourself that it was easier to live in silence than to bear the weight of decision. But silence is a choice. Waiting is a choice. Shrinking is a choice. Even when you do not decide, you are deciding. Think of how many times you have said to yourself, "I had no choice." Think of the times you believed the door was locked when, in truth, you simply had not turned the handle. The hardest chains to break are not the ones wrapped around your hands, but the ones wrapped around your mind. And those chains loosen the moment you realize you are not as powerless as you thought. You can walk away from what no longer serves you. You can choose new words, new actions, new directions. You can choose to stand when everything in you wants to collapse. You can choose to fight for yourself when no one else will. The world does not want you to know this, because a person who knows the strength of their choices is a person who cannot be controlled. When you reclaim the power of choice, you stop settling for less than you deserve. You stop accepting the scraps of love, the crumbs of respect, the small corner of the table. You choose to demand better because you know better, and people may not always like you for it. They may call you selfish. They may call you arrogant. They may try to shame you back into silence, but that is because your choice is a threat to their comfort. Do not let their fear rob you of your freedom. Choice does not erase hardship. You cannot choose every storm, but you can choose whether you will drown or whether you will swim. You cannot choose every betrayal, but you can choose whether you will remain bitter or whether you will grow wiser. You cannot choose every ending, but you can choose whether you stop there or turn the ending into a beginning. That is the power of choice. It turns graves into gardens, losses into lessons, endings into doorways. Some of you are waiting for the perfect moment to make a choice, waiting for fear to disappear, waiting for the path to be clear, waiting for everyone to clap for you before you move. But the truth is, there is no perfect moment. There is only this one. And in this moment, you hold more power than you realize. The decision to stand, to speak, to move, to believe, those decisions are not small. They are the seeds of transformation. If you wait for perfect, you will be waiting forever. Choose now, even if your hands shake. Choose now, even if your voice trembles. Choice is not always loud. Sometimes it is as quiet as deciding to forgive yourself when shame tries to keep you chained. Sometimes it is as small as choosing to get out of bed when despair tells you to stay. Sometimes it is as gentle as choosing to speak kindly to yourself when the mirror reflects your doubts. These small choices gather, and together they create a life that is no longer ruled by powerlessness. Do not underestimate them. The small choices build the foundation for the great ones. There will be people who try to tell you that you are stuck, that you are trapped, that there is no way forward. And if you believe them, you will remain where you are. But if you remember that every moment holds a choice, even if it is just a choice in how you will think, how you will speak, how you will rise, then you will never be fully trapped again. Freedom is not only a destination, it is a decision. You have a choice to remain in the prison of other people's expectations, or you can walk free into the wide field of your own becoming. You have a choice to live as a victim of circumstance, or you can rise as the author of your destiny. You have a choice to remain silent in your suffering, or you can choose to speak life into your own weary bones. These choices are yours. They do not belong to your past. They do not belong to those who doubted you. They do not belong to fear. They belong to you. And when you finally reclaim the power of choice, you begin to see life differently. You no longer wait for permission. You no longer beg for doors to open. You create your own. You no longer stand in the shadows of indecision. You walk boldly, even if the path is unclear, because you know that every step you take is still a step forward. That is the strength of choosing. That is the strength of reclaiming your life. So I say to you, you are not powerless. You are not trapped. You are not bound by fate alone. You hold the pen. You hold the brush. You hold the decision. Reclaim it. Stand in it. Walk with it. For every choice you make in truth, in courage, in love, brings you closer to the life that was always waiting for you to rise into it. There comes a point in life when you must recognize how long you have been waiting for approval, waiting for recognition, waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Now you may rise." Too many dreams have been held hostage by the invisible chains of permission. Too many voices have been silenced because their owners were told directly or indirectly that their words were not welcome. Too many hearts have been stilled because someone believed they did not yet have the right to live fully, to live boldly, to live free. But here is the truth. You were not placed on this earth to wait for a nod from someone else before you become who you were created to be. Permission is a prison disguised as politeness. We wait for the approval of parents, of partners, of bosses, of friends, of strangers who do not even know our names. We wait to be told we are good enough, smart enough, talented enough, beautiful enough. And while we wait, life passes us by. The waiting room of permission has more souls than any graveyard because it collects the living who never dared to step out of line. But the tragedy of waiting is this: no one can give you a permission that you already own. Think about it. The people you are waiting on, are they the architects of your soul? Did they breathe life into your body? Did they write your destiny? No, they did not. So how can they possibly grant you the authority to live the life that was never theirs to design? Waiting for permission is like standing in your own home, holding your own key, yet waiting for someone else to open your door. The lock will never turn until you decide to place the key in your own hand. When you live your life waiting for permission, you begin to shrink yourself to fit into other people's visions of who you should be. You learn to suppress your laughter because it is too loud. You hide your brilliance because it makes others uncomfortable. You dim your light because someone said you were shining too bright. And in that shrinking, you forget the truth. You were not made to be small. You were not created to fit into someone else's mold. You were crafted with intention, with power, with presence, and with a voice. Breaking the chains of permission is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is the recognition that you were born free. You do not need to be validated to stand tall. You do not need to be celebrated to speak. You do not need to be crowned by others to know that you already wear a crown within. The world has convinced you that worth must be handed to you, that your time must be announced by someone greater than you. But there is no greater voice than the one within. There will always be people who tell you to wait. They will say, "Not yet, you're not ready. Not yet, you haven't proven yourself. Not yet, someone else is more deserving." And if you listen long enough, you will live your entire life in the shadow of not yet. But if you dare to step out, if you dare to say, "I will not wait another moment for someone else to declare my freedom," then you will feel the weight of chains falling to the ground. And once you taste that freedom, you will never again let anyone bind you with their doubts. Consider how many times you have silenced yourself because you feared disapproval. How many times you hid your dreams because you thought they were too wild, too impossible, too unworthy of being spoken aloud. Every time you hid, you handed away your power. Every time you waited, you let your destiny linger on the edge of possibility instead of bringing it to life. Break the chains, speak the dream, step into the vision. No one else has to see it. No one else has to agree with it. No one else has to approve it. If it was placed in your soul, that is permission enough. And yes, there will be consequences when you stop waiting. People may call you arrogant. They may say you have changed. They may accuse you of thinking too highly of yourself. But do not let their discomfort chain you back into silence. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Their approval is not your oxygen. Their acceptance is not your food. You do not live for their applause, so do not die from their criticism. You must understand this. Life will never pause and wait for you to be brave. The years will keep turning, the days will keep passing, the opportunities will keep arriving and disappearing. If you wait until the world tells you, now you are allowed to rise, you will be waiting until your last breath. The only permission you ever needed was your own. And when you finally give it to yourself, you will see how wide the world becomes. Doors you thought were locked will swing open. Roads you thought were blocked will appear before you. Possibilities you thought were gone will rise again, waiting for you to walk into them. This world is not moved by people who ask nicely for permission. It is moved by those who refuse to bow, who refuse to wait, who refuse to silence themselves until someone else allowed them to speak. Every great shift, every breakthrough, every movement forward in history was started by someone who said, "I will no longer wait for you to tell me I am enough." They rose because they decided to rise. They spoke because they chose to speak. They lived because they refused to sit still. So I ask you now, how long will you wait? How many more dreams will you hold hostage while you wait for someone else to unlock your cage? How many more times will you bow your head while your spirit is begging to stand? How much longer will you sit in the waiting room of not yet when life is calling you to step into right now? The chains of permission are only as strong as your belief in them. The moment you believe you are free, the chains shatter. Do not wait for the world to invite you. Invite yourself. Do not wait for the world to hand you a crown. Crown yourself. Do not wait for the world to open the door. Break it wide open for your life, your voice, your power, your destiny never belonged to anyone else in the first place. Every scar tells a story, but too often we hide them as if they are stains instead of signs of survival. We cover them, we silence them, we pretend they are not there because the world has taught us that wounds are shameful, that pain is weakness, that brokenness is failure. But I tell you now, your wounds are not the end of you. They are the beginning of something greater. They are teachers dressed in suffering. They are lessons disguised as loss. If you have the courage to face them, if you dare to turn toward them instead of running away, your wounds will become your wisdom. Pain does not visit without purpose. Every cut, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every disappointment comes bearing something you need to grow, though at first it may feel unbearable. Pain strips away illusions. It burns down false foundations. It reveals the truth you were unwilling to see. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it breaks you open. But what remains after the breaking is something stronger, something clearer, something truer. Wisdom is not learned in moments of ease. Wisdom is carved into your soul through the fires you survive. Think of the times you thought you would not make it, the nights you cried until your chest ached, the mornings you woke up with heaviness so deep you wondered if rising was even worth it. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still moving. That means something. It means the wound did not win. It means the pain did not bury you. It means that within you is a strength so powerful, even despair could not silence it. Do not dismiss that. Do not forget that. That is wisdom being born. But here is where many falter. They carry the wound, but they never turn it into wisdom. They hold on to the pain, replaying the betrayal, rehearsing the heartbreak, reliving the failure until it becomes a cage. And when pain becomes a cage, you remain trapped in the very place you were meant to rise from. Turning wounds into wisdom requires release. It requires saying, "This happened, it hurt me, it changed me, but it will not chain me." It requires you to stop asking, "Why me?" and begin asking, "What did this teach me?" That shift is where power returns. You are not weak for being wounded. You are human. You are not broken beyond repair. You are in process. Gold is refined by fire, and so is the human spirit. The moments that hurt the most often become the very foundation of your strength. The rejection that shattered you taught you to stand on your own feet. The heartbreak that tore you apart taught you how to love yourself more deeply. The failure that embarrassed you taught you resilience. If you are willing to listen, every wound carries wisdom for your becoming. Do not be ashamed of your scars. They are not proof of weakness. They are proof of survival. They are the marks of a warrior who walked through the fire and emerged with the evidence of battle. And more than survival, they are proof of transformation. When you show your scars, you show others that healing is possible. You give permission for them to rise as well. Your wounds, when turned into wisdom, do not only heal you, they heal those around you. There will be those who try to use your wounds against you. They will point to your scars as evidence that you are less than, that you are unworthy, that you are broken. But that is because they do not understand. What they call weakness is your testimony. What they call brokenness is your badge of resilience. What they call shame is your survival song. Do not let their misunderstanding make you hide. Let it remind you of the power you carry. Wisdom born of wounds is different from knowledge born of books. It is deeper, heavier, more rooted. It teaches compassion because you have felt suffering. It teaches patience because you have endured waiting. It teaches courage because you have faced fear. It teaches humility because you know what it is to be brought low. That kind of wisdom cannot be faked, cannot be bought, cannot be borrowed. It must be lived. And once you carry it, it shines from you in ways that others can feel, even without words. Your wounds are part of your story, but they are not the end of it. They are chapters, not conclusions. Too many people stop in the middle of the story, thinking the pain is the whole book. But if you keep going, if you keep turning the pages, you will find that pain was only the setup for your rising. The wound was the teacher, but wisdom is the graduation. Do not drop out before you graduate. Do not stop before the lesson has revealed its power. And understand this, turning wounds into wisdom does not mean forgetting what happened. It does not mean pretending it did not hurt. It means choosing to use it instead of being used by it. It means saying, yes, I was hurt, but I will not let the hurt define me. I will let it shape me, strengthen me, sharpen me. It means allowing the pain to push you into your purpose instead of pulling you into despair. There are people waiting on your wisdom, people who will only believe they can rise because you rose, people who will only trust healing because you showed them your healed scars. Your story, your pain, your wounds are not only about you, they are about everyone who will find hope in the wisdom you carry. If you hide your wounds, you hide your wisdom. If you silence your story, you silence someone else's chance to believe in their own. So look at your scars differently now. They are not shame. They are strength. They are not the end of you. They are the beginning of a deeper, wiser, freer you. And when you finally turn them into wisdom, you will realize that what once tried to destroy you was actually preparing you. Every wound was shaping you for the life you are meant to live. There is a quiet truth that shapes our lives more than we often realize. Who you surround yourself with determines what grows in you. Energy is contagious. The people closest to you either breathe life into your spirit or drain it until you can hardly stand. They either ignite your courage or they smother your flame. And yet, too many of us remain in circles that keep us buried in ashes when we were meant to burn with fire. Ashes are what remain when something has burned out. They are lifeless, cold, fragments of what used to be alive. And there are people who live as ashes, consumed by bitterness, swallowed by doubt, resigned to mediocrity, afraid of anything new. When you surround yourself with ashes, their resignation becomes your song. Their doubt becomes your ceiling. Their fear becomes your boundary. You may not notice it at first, but slowly your light dims. Slowly your fire begins to fade. But when you surround yourself with fire, with those who burn with vision, passion, courage, and purpose, something awakens in you. Their flame stirs your own. Their courage reminds you of your own strength. Their belief in possibility becomes proof that your own dreams are not foolish. Fire calls to fire. When you sit close enough to it, you cannot help but feel your own spirit rising. The danger is that ashes are comfortable. They do not challenge you. They do not ask you to rise higher. They let you stay as you are, quiet, small, contained. And sometimes that feels easier. Fire, on the other hand, demands something of you. It challenges your excuses. It refuses to let you stay in the safety of smallness. It calls you out, pushes you forward, and makes you uncomfortable because it sees more in you than you are willing to see in yourself.